in the room, put your hands together, please. We are so lucky to be joined on stage by such an expert in the field. So hands together, Bristol Coffee Festival 2024, welcome to the stage, Fabi!
I am Dr. Fabiana Carvalho. I am a neuroscientist, and one of our last research projects was to develop a Canephora flavor wheel, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. Right, so today we are going to discuss where does quality come from when we consider genetics and environment. Then we are going to talk a little bit the power of communication, on how knowing a product and be able to talk about it helps a lot. And then I'm going to show you how we developed the Coffee Canephora flavor wheel. So this is a genotype map of the Coffee species, and we can see that Arabica comes from eugenoids and Canephora, so the mother and the father. And we can also see how we have already mapped, or we know a lot about Arabica cultivars and varieties, and we know very little about Canephora groups and clones. So we have to expand that. And we have just started a project with World Coffee Research to actually expand that, because in Brazil we have already walked a long way towards mapping the genotypes of the Brazilian Canephoras, meaning Conilon and Robustas. And the plan is to expand that or replicate that to the other Canephora origins too, so we can include or update the genotype map of World Coffee Research. And when we do that, we can map the genes for quality, okay? So this is very important. So the nature part of quality is something that we do have to investigate. In addition to that, there is nurture, or the environment. So how the plant is looked after, how the post-harvest processing happens, so all of those things matter a lot. And mapping this very complex interaction of environmental factors is challenging, and we know that. But again, in Brazil we have advanced a lot on plant nutrition, on how to grow Canephora, how to harvest, how to ferment, how to dry, focusing on quality again. But even so, the markets for Canephora are still very much commoditized. Those coffees are actually perceived, but this is based on a very strong idea or assumption or preconceptions of low quality, no matter what. Okay, if it's Robusta, it's bad. And this is something that it's an obstacle for those coffees to be captured by alternative supply chains, such as specialty. Okay, so it is important to learn about the product itself. So it's very important that we learn about that in order to communicate it, okay? So it's very important for both B2B and B2C that we can talk about, that we have the vocabulary to talk about clones and groups and post-harvest methods, and also that we can speak about quality, how we can map it, how can we cup those coffees, how can we decide which sensory characteristics are good or bad. So we need language. And we also need design. So in addition to written information on the label, Arabica or Canephora coffees, the specialty side of it, the high quality, needs design, mainly the cross-modal design. But this is subject for another talk. Okay, so when we know about our coffee, we can communicate it better, and it generates consumer demand. And consumer demand leads to innovation, which in turn leads to more consumer demand. And we need to get the cycle going. This is very important. And regarding Canephora, we do need to understand the sensory characteristics, and we need to be able to talk about sensory attributes. If we know that, we can then actually position those coffees or understand the several consumer markets that we might have for it. Okay, so is there a place for specialty Canephora? We think so. I think it's already happening. So this is just a development of a descriptive tool. So cuppers can actually evaluate quality of these coffees. So now I'm going to talk about how we designed the Canephora flavor wheel. Okay, so this is the wine analogy. We have this overall wine flavor wheel. Okay, so here we are considering a flavor wheel as a descriptive tool that's going to guide you towards understanding better the sensory profile of something. It can be wine, it can be coffee, okay? And so this is the wine wheel, but we can split it into the red wine wheel and the white wine wheel. So imagine we have been drinking white wine our whole lives, and now I'm going to give you a glass of red wine. The white wine wheel is not really up to the task to encompass everything that we can find in the red wine, right? And in addition to that, there are sensory characteristics of the red wine that can be considered defect in the white wine. Very strong woody notes or spicy notes or high tannin levels, they don't resonate well in the structure of the white wine, but they go very well in the red wine because it has a structure for that, okay? And when we look at the Arabica wheel, it misses something. It's not really including all the sensory characteristics or all the uniqueness, or it's not really finding the expression of the Canephora coffees. So this wheel was developed in 2016 based on these two scientific articles here. And if we look at the samples that they have used to build this wheel, it's mainly Arabica, okay? They have used Robusta, but as commercial coffees only, so for the defect part, not for the quality part in itself. Okay, so we have created actually a first version of the Canephora flavor wheel, but this was out of despair almost, because we started teaching cuppers to evaluate or describe the sensory attributes aroma notes and flavor notes of Canephora coffees, and we could see that coming from Arabica, the cuppers were struggling a lot. So I really like this coffee, but I cannot describe it. I get like soy sauce notes, or tomato notes, or cedar notes, or barrel, whiskey. What am I supposed to do with it? So we did a very quick frequency analysis of the Canephora coffees database that Professor Lucas Lousada from Espírito Santo had. So this is like 12,000 coffees. So, and we came up with this wheel. But this is the Brazilian Canephora flavor wheel. And it may not be representative of Canephoras from all over the world. So we decided to expand it. So we got samples from 13 origins. And then we did a very comprehensive analysis, and I'm going to show that to you. So first of all, we noticed that Canephora coffees, they have more these fermented alcoholic notes, like cognac, rum, Malbec wine, liqueur, and also has a lot of spices notes, brown and aromatic spices and pepper. And here we have umami notes. Salty notes are usually defective notes, but umami notes, they can be positive if the wine has structure. So in context, depending on who they are with, they can add complexity to the coffee. We have woody notes, but positive ones like barrel, smoked, cedar. And we have a lot of dry fruit notes and a lot of tea notes. Okay, so this is just an overview of what we have done for the next flavor wheel, so for the 2.0. So this is the research group. So it's Professor Lucas Lousada from Brazil, Henrique Alves, also from Brazil. So Lucas Lousada is in a place where they grow Conilon coffee, and then Henrique is in a place where they grow Robusta coffee. That's Rondônia. This is myself, and also Álvaro and Mateus from University of São Paulo. We have a lot of collaborators who helped us by donating coffee, and Gloria from NKG helped us a lot on conducting the cupping in Zurich. So we had samples from 13 origins. We started with 34 samples. They were cupped by Brazilian cuppers and also European cuppers. And we had a second phase. We included more 33 samples cupped in Brazil. Yeah, so this is the number of cuppers that we had. And this is the cupping form. So it's a descriptive form. So here we have the fine Robusta score sheet, but we added this. It is close to the kata, check all that apply, that you might be more familiar now with the CVA, but this is rata, that's rate all that apply. So in addition to the frequency of the flavor note, we also wanted to know the intensity of it. And there it is. And here we can see this weight takes into account frequency and intensity, okay? So the family that we have the most in Canephora coffees is roasted, so mainly roasted nuts. And then we go to sweet notes, and then we go to fruity notes, cocoa notes, green notes, and we also added low quality coffee because we had to map the defects too, okay? It's going to be published soon. Let me check my time. Okay, I've got 40 seconds. And we also have done one wheel origin. So this is going to be out in the paper too, in the scientific paper too. And okay, so this is just my final notes to you. It's very important that we have a descriptive tool to help the cuppers to understand Canephora quality. It's advancing very, very fast. And of course, we need a wide range of terms, both positive and negative. And this is important. Canephora must be evaluated on its own merit. So it's not going to become Arabica. That's not the point. Yeah. So we do need to understand what high quality Canephora is about. Yeah, this is it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so quick question. You talked about language being limiting. I'm guessing you're Brazilian, you speak Brazilian Portuguese?
Yes.
So I read somewhere a while back that Brazilian Portuguese has something like 3 or 4 times more words than European English. When you're doing this research sometimes, do you find that sometimes there is a word, just not in English, that you can retrofit to standardize?
Yeah, actually that's why we ran 2 cupping sessions, one in Brazil and another one in Europe, to try to expand the language a little bit. But it's always a challenge, right? You know, if I get like people from Japan or from South Africa or from Mexico, you know, and cup the same coffees, the description will change a little bit. That's why we started with the family aromas. So nutty, fruity, floral. Okay, so we are all in the same space here, but people can say, oh no, it's this fruit, and the other people, oh no, it's this fruit. But yeah, so we agree more when it's more generic, right? And we tend to disagree more. So there is more, yes, there is more disagreement between cuppers when we try to go to the specific descriptor of something. But the rate all that apply that we use start from the family, sub-family, and then the specific thing. But they could write down, and yeah. Even so, there are things that the Brazilians put there, like fruits, like jabuticaba, cupuaçu, and you know, the Europeans wouldn't know what it is. And then we have more European terms too, and they are all there. So yeah, so maybe next time we can add Asian cuppers too. So we are going to have a more, you know, diverse flavor wheel, which is going to be great. So, but yes, it changes a lot from country to country, or from culture to culture, yes.
That was a great question. We have more.
Yeah, I might be building on that last one, but I saw the word animalistic come up in that list.
Animalistic, yes. It's like meaty or leather, and even dairy, so butter, so everything that comes from animal. Actually, in the Arabica wheel, we don't see that, but there are other stuff. If you look at their wheel, you are going to see like wine, sometimes they use, perfume, they use a lot. Yeah. So it's just a group for animal aromas.
How does that differ from umami?
Okay, so umami, you have like tomato, you have mushroom, you have other, so you have an overlap. Yeah. But you have things that like dairy, they are not specifically umami, like you have lactic, you go towards yogurt. Yeah, so there is another overlap with sour, because those things overlap, right? All the families, if you look through them, yeah, they overlap a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I think we don't experience any tastes or flavours in a vacuum, do we? They all relate to one another. It's really hard to pinpoint just one thing. That's the point of the flavour wheel, right?
Yes, yes, yes. And well, one example is that like vanilla in the wine wheel, it's a spice. because in wine you don't get vanilla that's so sweet. And in our wheel, in the coffee wheel, vanilla is in the sweet, right? Yeah.
Lovely. I'm going to cast my eyes out and see if there's any more hands in the air that aren't. So I'm going to ask a question, if that's okay. I have a microphone, so you have to say yes. We've actually asked a lot of speakers this question, and I think it gives us really good insight, but I would love to know why you chose to research this topic and why you chose to present it here at Bristol Coffee Festival today, if you're okay with that.
Sure. Actually, we chose to research it. Sorry. We chose to research it first because Brazil is a big producer of Canephora coffees. And when we started teaching about that, actually the first course that we did was in the pandemic, and it was online. So we shipped a lot of Conilon and Robusta coffees from all over the world. And we did an online cupping with everybody, and we could see how difficult, how challenging it was for them to describe those coffees. And I said, Lucas, we need a flavor wheel. And he said, yes, we do. Let's go for it, let's go. And yeah, so this is something that maybe we'll need for the other species, you know. Liberica is coming strong too. Maybe if those wheels cannot, you know, be up to the task to explain its complexity, maybe we'll need it too. So I brought it here. It's very important to bring this discussion. What is specialty? If it's about one coffee species only, if it's about quality, the way it is produced. Yeah, so this is just a topic for you to think about.
Definitely. I think we've gotten caught in the trap of hearing the word Robusta and assuming an awful lot about it, and this is definitely challenging those assumptions. Hands together, please. What an amazing talk. Thank you so much for sharing it with us, Fabi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.